The key idea of this video is to basically talk about the profile that I built during my undergrad from 2020 to 2024 to land into engineering management courses here in the US, specifically at NYU and Johns Hopkins. Before starting this video, let me just quickly also introduce myself. I am Sohan Joshi, currently a second semester graduate student at NYU pursuing management of technology. I am running this series on my YouTube channel about MS applications and associated stuff, which is linked at the top and also in the description, in which I've covered different aspects of MS applications, starting from the MS application timeline to statement of purpose, all the way up to finding on-campus jobs and the things that you can do before landing in the US. All the other resources like my newsletter, my LinkedIn, my Twitter, my Calendly link, which is completely free of cost by the way, is also listed in the description. Before starting this video, I also want to give a disclaimer that the profile that I have might be very different from the profile that you have or someone else might have. I know friends with computer science background, I know friends with electronics background, I know friends with management background coming into the engineering management course just because the nature of the course is such that it's too broad. It's very important for you to understand what MEM is in the first place if you don't know. And a very important place from which you can get that information is basically a site which is called as MEM Consortium, which is a group of schools in the US which offer the MEM course. The link is listed in the description. You might want to check that after the video. With all of this out of the way now, let's talk about my MEM profile. First thing, let's talk about grades. Starting with the college GPA at the time of submission of these SOPs and all of that were first 3 years or 6 semesters of my undergrad. And I scored 9.11 on 10. The second thing is GRE. GRE score was not really great. It was just 310 on 340. I did not submit the GRE scores to a bunch of universities. Only where it was compulsory I submitted it. TOEFL was 108 out of 120, which is again like pretty decent. Standout in my SOP and my application in general were I think the projects that I worked on right from the first year itself. So like my engineering went in COVID basically. So like the first 2 years were in COVID and the last 2 years were offline. First 2 years were the time when I really explored a bunch of things and I figured out like, my interests and I was chasing my curiosity during the first year. So my project spanned from like my newsletter, which I started in the first year, which is also listed in the description. The second big project which I worked on for 2 years was the IEEE podcast, the career podcast that I was mentioning about at the start of this video. That was a very crucial project that gave a solid foundation for my entrepreneurial skills, my leadership skills, my communication, working with cross-functional teams and delivering results, all of which is like also listed on my LinkedIn. So like those numbers and the learning that I had really spoke for itself. So that was the second big project that I had. There was this brief internship that I was doing with a student from ESSEC Business School because she wanted to build a study abroad student community for which I was helping her on her own YouTube. And that YouTube channel is also listed in the description, which you can also check. Other major project that I also had was this freelancing project with a guy from Singapore who was recording podcasts with VC and publishing them on his channel, and he was growing that channel. So that working on that channel for like 2 years gave me a very good understanding of VC, gave me a very good understanding of the startup space. I was initially working as a content writer over there, which eventually graduated to a role of content manager. These were the key projects or like volunteering roles that I had. The other thing that was like I was doing for a brief time was also leading the training and placement cell of my department to like really manage and oversee the placements and stuff. I wasn't involved for a very long time, but yeah, it was a brief role for 3 months, which was also included in my applications. If you want to know like how did I craft all of these experiences in my SOP or like my personal statement, those videos are also linked somewhere over here or in the description because I've expanded in detail about how did I go about crafting all of these experiences together, which you can check out. And that video I think has around 11,000 views at this point, so pretty cool. You can check that out. These were all the projects and like volunteering roles that I had. I also had one other internship, but the catch with it is that it was on some of the applications and it wasn't there on some of the applications because the internship really came after my pre-placement offer. So like I got my pre-placement in August in the final year and then the internship started in January. But before starting the internship, the NYU application deadline had passed by. So I had to submit NYU application. So the internship wasn't noted on that, but it was there on my Johns Hopkins application. Coming to the other side, which also I think made my profile really stand out along with the projects that I had, were the public speaking sessions that I was doing from the second year of my undergrad, if I'm not wrong. I did around 4 to 5 sessions, and I think that is also something that I quantified on my SOP, on my resume as well. Like, okay, in some sense of achievements. I think I also had achievements from IEEE, like, exceptional contributor of the year, best student volunteer, whatever that was, which also I think boosted the awards and achievement section that I had, which is also backed in the letters of recommendation that I got. Letters of recommendation, one of which was academic, was again from a professor with whom I was closely working with, and he was mentoring me from the second year itself, like as soon as college started offline. So that professor gave me one LOR. The other award was from the guy for whom I was freelancing, the guy that I mentioned. And the third guy was the one who mentored me through the IEEE stuff that I was working on over 2 years. So this is like broadly the profile, which is I think a decent balance of my grades, also my own like personal side projects, some of which were tied to an institution like IEEE was in the picture, my undergrad college, and the training and placement cell was in the picture. The awards and achievement section in some sense also helped me stand out. Again, all of which is listed on my LinkedIn. So if you want to check that out, please feel free to. It's in the description. I think that's pretty much it. This was my profile for engineering management here in the US. I hope you found the video insightful. And in some sense, it inspired you to like work on a profile like this. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.